What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Monday, April 28th. My name is Ewan, and on today's episode, I'm going to be going over my transfer targets for the Miami Grand Prix. I put out a tweet last night, it was kind of late last night, and saying, let me know who you guys want me to talk about for transfer targets, and yeah, you guys responded. A couple of suggestions here. I've added in some of my own here, and then I'll go over my updated team selection thoughts at the end of the video. Timestamps in the description below. Hope you guys had a good week off. I did 3 pieces of content. I did a 2-part interview with Luke, who's a new F1 fantasy content creator on the scene, so definitely go check those out. It's in the playlist below. And then I was actually a guest on Rob, Formula Fantasy Hub's interview as well, his guest interview series, where we had a great old chit chat about F1 fantasy and what we are hoping for the rest of the season. But make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the YouTube channel. We are closing in on 2,900 subscribers. It's happening, people. The push for 3,000 is well and truly on. So thank you everyone for so much support at the beginning of the season. Every like, comment, subscription, follow on X, TikTok, whatever is greatly appreciated. But let's get into today's episode. So starting off here with Gabriel Bortoleto, the guy that is at the floor of F1 Fantasy. And he has entered my thoughts as I was a Jack Doohan manager. I was going to say unlucky, but it was actually just a bad decision by me. 4.5 million in 24% of teams. It's going okay for Bortoleto here recently. As you can see, the prices or his scores on the bottom there for Australia, China, Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. Negative 18 in Australia has been his worst performance, but then 4 in Bahrain, 3 in Saudi Arabia. So things are getting a little bit better. And then on the graph here, so if you listen on the podcast side, I would highly encourage you to come over to the YouTube channel just to check this out. The bottom 2 categories here, points for price rise Miami and points for price rise Imola. Those are from Pat's graphics on F1 Fantasy Tools. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, I couldn't get all of his graphics loaded in here, but I will go over them on my Wednesday Q&A live stream, which will be happening at 8:30 p.m. Germany time, so 7:30 p.m. UK time and 2:30 p.m. US Eastern. So make sure to check that out on Wednesday night. But points for price rise in Miami. So 6/10 on this graphic here. So that means 6 points is needed for a minimum price rise, 10 points is needed for a maximum price rise. And then Pat has kind of worked that out to mean that in Imola, if he gets so on the points for price rise Imola on this graphic, it says 4,8/1,6. So if he scores 6 points and gets a good price rise in Miami, he needs 4 points for another good price rise in Imola, or he needs 8 points for a great price rise in Imola. If he scores 10 points in Miami, the /10 here on the points for price rise Miami, he needs 1 point for a good price rise in Imola and 6 points for a great price rise. So 0.2, 0.6, good, great, good, great. So that's why he is a transfer target for me. As you can see, I'm wearing my Liverpool t-shirt today because, they won the Premier League yesterday. So shout out to the Reds. And yeah, so Bortoleto I kind of wish I'd gone with him last week. I do have 3 free transfers to fix my team, which we'll get into at the end of the episode here. But overall, Bortoleto, 4.5 million, can't really go wrong with him. Seems like he has a pretty good chance to rise in Miami, considering it's a sprint weekend. See, in China, the other sprint weekend, he scored 7 points. I don't know what that means for Imola. It could mean that he goes down again, but if he's going up and down, it's not too bad while we're trying to figure out other parts of our team. If you're planning to limitless over the next 2 races, if you're limitlessing in Miami, the transfer targets is please still like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But if you're playing limitless, then all the transfer targets don't really work for this week because you are locked into that team that you had in Saudi Arabia. So just remember that. However, if you're planning to limitless in Italy or Monaco, Bortoleto should be on your radar. He was on my radar last week. I just didn't get there in time. I was going to go for Alonso instead. But Bortoleto, priority transfer for me this week. He's going to enable some other moves in my squad. So that's where I'm at. Bortoleto is a worthy transfer target. Price floor. He's not going to fall Very safe option. Could get a little bit of a price rise. Maybe you can take that and run if you've already used your limitless. Maybe you can bank on this 0.2 price rise and you'll have enough money to get off him and you've gained 0.2 million before the Imola Grand Prix here. Next up is Jack Doohan, 5 million, 19% of teams own him. Not incredible for Doohan. It's been a little bit of a slug here. -20 in Australia, 11 in China, which is the sprint, 6 in Japan, 2 in Bahrain, 1 in Saudi Arabia. Fairly disappointing for him and for his F1 fantasy managers. I expect that percentage of teams that have him in their squad, 19%, will go down after this week because people will be getting off of him. 5 million. There's part of me that's like, I just lost 0.8 million with this guy over the last 2 races. Do I want to try and recoup it? But he could go down another, he could be not great. He could be 4.5 million heading into Imola because he needs 11 points for a good price rise in Miami. That's his highest. That would tie his highest score this season in China with 11. He needs 15 points for a great price rise. After watching him in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain quite closely, it's just not looking that great. Saudi Arabia was a really disappointing race. We know that car had pace because Gasly looked rapid the entire weekend. He unfortunately got in that wreck with Yuki Tsunoda during the first lap. So we don't really know how disappointing Jack Doohan's performance was, because if Gasly also struggled on Sunday, maybe we'd be able to give Jack a little bit of leeway here. But ultimately, 1 point is not cutting it. Jack Doohan to Gabriel Bortoleto is going to be one of my moves this week for sure. And then 15 points for a great price rise, which if he gets the good price rise in Miami, that means he only needs 3 points for another good price rise in Imola and 7 points for a great price rise in Imola. I just don't trust him to get those numbers. He needed 3 points in Bahrain to get a great price rise. Missed it by 1 point. He needed 3 points to get a good price rise in Saudi Arabia. Missed it, or to get a minimum price fall in Saudi Arabia. Missed that as well. So it's just not feeling great. Maybe I'm just a little bitter about the last 2 weeks because I don't want to get there. 11 is doable. We've seen it in China, obviously, right there on the screen. 11 points for Jack Doohan. But I don't trust it. It feels like the vibes are going downhill. I know the race.com is reporting that he's safe until the summer, but there is another 2-week gap after this, after the Miami Grand Prix. Maybe if it's another disappointing result for Jack Doohan and Alpine, which clearly Gasly has a good handle on, I wonder if those rumors start back up. So Jack Doohan is probably going to be a transfer out for me. And if you have him in your squad and you're planning to play Limitless in Miami, I would make sure that he is the only asset that is set to fall. All your other assets better have pretty easy targets to hit a good or a great price rise. If Jack Doohan's your only falling member in your squad when you're going to play Limitless this week in Miami, I don't mind it. It's just, 11 points is doable. He could come through for you guys. I don't feel great about it, but if it's just one price faller and you're okay, you just want to play Limitless, you're feeling really good about Miami, the rest of your team is set up well, I don't mind it. But for me, because I have Doohan and Gasly, I can't play Limitless this week because I will be falling in price. So Doohan's going to be a transfer out for me, but I understand if you're going to play Limitless this week, why you would keep him, obviously. But if you're also not playing Limitless this week, I would try and get him out of your squad as well. Next up here is Fernando Alonso, 6.2 million and 31% of squads. It's been a rough start for the veteran of the grid here, but things are looking a little bit better. After a -20 and a -16 in China, he scored 4, 5, and 7 over the last 3 races, which means in Miami, he is set for some okay achievable price points here. 5 points for a good price rise, 11 points for a great price rise, and then the following race, if he hits 5 points in Miami, he'll need 6 points for a good price rise and 12 points for a great price rise in Imola. However, if he goes and gets that great price rise in Miami at 11 points, Imola is going to be great. 1 point for a good price rise, 7 points for a great price rise. So if you're trying to set up your team for limitless in Imola like I am, Fernando Alonso, priority target for me, because 11 points is doable in a sprint weekend. There's 3-point scoring sessions. We got to see what Aston Martin looks like on Friday. There'll be a free practice, and then there'll be sprint qualifying, so we'll be able to see how they're looking there. And also, I will be live for the entire sprint qualifying, and then for 15 minutes afterwards, I'll be giving like my final thoughts this week. So there's no deadline live stream this week. I will actually be on a plane heading to the States, not to watch the Miami Grand Prix, unfortunately. But so no deadline stream for me this week, but I will be doing like a live thing, looking at the results from FP1 and watching sprint quali, and then giving myself a 15-minute kind of final thoughts episode at the end of that I will clip off and make a episode to consume on Saturday during the daytime. Just so you know, programming note there. So Alonso is in the ballpark for me, mostly because it enables one more move for me that I'm also going to get to in this episode. Like I said, check out the timestamps in the description below if you just want to jump ahead to my team selection. 31% of teams have him, so that's probably from early season, some dead teams, that kind of thing. But overall, I'm interested in getting him in my squad because he seems to be getting a handle on the car. The DNF luck is out of the way. Like, surely the DNF pain train for Fernando Alonso has already hit enough in 2025. So 4, 5, and 7. And the thing is, Japan 4 points, Saudi Arabia 7 points, kind of low overtaking tracks as well. So while Imola is also a low overtaking track, you can see here that he's averaged 5.5 points in those two kind of lower overtake track races. So 6 points for a good price rise in Imola, or 1 point for a good price rise if he hits the maximum price rise this week, makes him a pretty easy target for me to bring in. Let me know in the description below if you guys are thinking of bringing in Fernando Alonso. Would you risk it? Do you like the odds of him scoring 5 or 11 points this week and then the following week in Imola? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you're listening on the podcast side, subscribe there, 5 stars, all that fun stuff. Another driver here at 6.6 million, Liam Lawson. He's in 6% of squads. That's because he's a new driver, and that came in the 3rd race this season. So it'll be interesting to see if, like, I'll have to look at the Patreon top 500, the global top 500, but I expect that to rise quite a bit this week. He is another target for me. Along with Fernando Alonso, I'm kind of enamored with Alonso. And luckily, you guys, you fantastic subscribers, viewers, commenters, all that stuff, have kind of opened my eyes that Liam Lawson needs to be a possibility as well. 4 points per race since he has joined Racing Bulls again. As you can see here, -17 in Australia, 22 in China, but that was in a Red Bull. So the stars next to the scores, -4, 11, and 5 in Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia are his scores since he joined Racing Bulls. So in Miami, he needs 2 points for a good price rise, 8 points for a great price rise, and then that would result in 12 points. If he gets a good price rise in Miami, he needs 12 points for a good price rise in Imola, and 18 for a great price rise or 18 points for a great price rise. However, if he hits 8 points in Miami for a great price rise, he'll need 7 points for a good price rise and 13 points for a great price rise. I don't feel as good about those kind of thresholds with Liam Lawson compared to Fernando Alonso, who was a lot lower there. But a note that Luke mentioned on our interview together, so go check out that. I'll put it up right now in the top right-hand corner, that the Racing Bulls, people in the garage at Racing Bulls mentioned that Saudi Arabia was really the first time that the real Liam looked like he was back in the garage. They said he came in from Red Bull, he's a little bit broken, obviously he's like short on confidence having just been demoted, but they said in Saudi Arabia he looked like his normal self, like the Liam that they saw last year, and hopefully that means like on to bigger and better things for him. So you guys fantastically have kind of opened my eyes to Liam Lawson being a possibility in Miami. I'm still kind of tempted by Alonso a little bit more. However, with the Racing Bulls car clearly better than Aston Martin right now, despite Alonso maybe dragging the most out of that car that he possibly can, I'll need to wait until Friday to kind of make my final decision on this, because I can afford Liam Lawson and Fernando Alonso with the transfer plans that I have right now. I just don't love those thresholds. If I'm playing Limitless in Imola, it feels like he could go up a max price rise, but then I'm going to need a pretty big miracle for him to go up again in Imola. So that's where I'm kind of on the fence. But if you're not setting up for Limitless or anything like that in Miami, Lawson is probably the better points play for this week, but maybe not the better budget play for like long-term growth over the next couple of races before we get to the Monaco Grand Prix. Next up here is Esteban Ocon. A lot of you guys asking about him. I hopped off the Frenchman to hop on to his teammate in Pierre Gasly last week, and it did not go so well. 9.1 million, 28% of teams have him. 10.8 points per race, 1.36 points per million. In Miami, he has achievable targets here, and he's had positive points in every single race. 8 in Australia, 24 in China, 1 in Japan, 15 in Bahrain, and 6 in Saudi Arabia. So you can see that Haas takes advantage of overtakey tracks here. 24 points in the sprint in China, 15 points in Bahrain. Miami is top 10 for overtakes over the last 3 seasons as well. 3 points concessions for Esteban Ocon as well. And he's not a bad option. I can get to him with a couple of moves. I could bring in Ocon for Gasly, and then I'd be able to go like Doohan to Bortoleto, but it doesn't give me enough money to do my final move that I really want to do for Imola. So that's where Ocon is a little bit out of my thoughts this week. However, if you've played Limitless or you're not thinking about Limitless until Spa or something like that, Ocon is a great target. It's likely he's going to score a boatload of points here. So as you can see, in Miami, he needs 4 points for a good price rise, 12 points for a great price rise. I think he's likely to hit that 12 points. The Haas seems to kind of qualify low and then builds up its places during the Sunday race, which is fantastic. Like even during the sprint, they can get some positions gains, some overtakes, all that fun stuff there for Ocon and Behrman and stuff. So they're doing a pretty good job. They're doing the reverse of 2023, where they would qualify high and fall back through the field on Sunday. They're kind of qualifying low and gaining spots throughout the field on Sunday. So Ocon's doing a great job there. Behrman's doing a great job there. Ayo Komatsu is doing a great job for Haas as well. So if Ocon hits that 12 points in Miami for a great price rise, he'll go up to 9.7 million. He needs 9 points for a good price rise in Imola and 17 points for a great price rise in Imola. How do I don't know if he's going to be able to reach those points. I would suspect that he'll at least only fall 0.2. So over the next 2 weeks, you could be gaining 0.4 in Esteban Ocon. You don't have to look at it as a max price rise and then he's going to fall kind of thing. Like if you can look at it over like a 2 race period, you're going to gain 0.4, which is still pretty valuable at this point in this season. It's the difference between Fernando Alonso and Liam Lawson, to say the least there. And yeah, I kind of wish I could get to Ocon. Obviously, bringing him out for Gasly last week did not gain me points or budget. However, I still stand by the decision. I think I said it on the review stream that I did. It was like good process, bad results kind of thing. And that's just something we have to accept in F1 fantasy here. But Ocon would be a priority target for me if I wasn't looking to set up for Limitless or if I had enough money to kind of maneuver around a little bit better. So if you are interested in Ocon, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, definitely support that transfer. Final transfer target here for me before we get into team selection is Ferrari. They are back on the menu. 27.6 million, 21% of teams have him or have them. 41.2 points per race, 1.52 points per million. The price rises for Miami are not really applicable here because they're going to rise no matter what. But 36 points in Australia, and then the DSQ in China, 56 points in Japan, 73 points in Bahrain, 64 points in Saudi Arabia is very, very nice. And I think that they are starting to challenge Mercedes for that second constructor spot. As we can see here, the battle for second, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes. McLaren is the clear runaway number one constructor. We should all have them or all want them in our F1 fantasy squads. But as you can see here, the price, pick percentage, PPR, points per million, teamwork, quali, and then pit stop points. Ferrari is coming out on top here. So, I mean, they're the most expensive at 27.6 points per million. They are the most popular team with 21% of squads having them in the lineup right now. 41.2 points per million. That is ahead of Red Bull, despite them getting a double DSQ in China. And then they are trailing Mercedes in that category, 59.6. Points per million, they're obviously down. Mercedes is the best bang for your buck there amongst these three teams, 2.56 points per million. However, Ferrari has qualified all their drivers in the qualifying teamwork. They get 10 points per race for that, and they have 11 pit stop points per race, whereas Red Bull is 7 points for quali teamwork and 3.8 pit stop points, which is really bad. And then Mercedes is 9 teamwork quali points and 5 pit stop points. So Ferrari is getting back on the menu here. I'm pretty interested in hopping on Ferrari for the Miami Grand Prix, for Imola, for Monaco especially. Like, we're thinking really far ahead. Ferrari usually pretty bang up good in this set of regulations despite their pit wall strategy for F1 fantasy. So that's where I am thinking. I'm leaning Ferrari. We're going to get into it right now with some team selection. But yeah, the red Italian team is very much in my thoughts. Alrighty, here we are. T1 team, 108.2 million, as you can see above my head right now. Oscar Piastri, Pierre Gasly, Ollie Behrman, Jack Doohan, Isaac Hadjar, McLaren, and Mercedes. So just to explain my quick thoughts, it hasn't really changed all that much since the team selection episode, which you can go check out, which is more of a like Miami Grand Prix preview-y episode rather than just this transfer targets thing. So there are options here where like I could bring in Esteban Ocon and let's see here, Esteban Ocon. And then I can go down to Gabriel Bortoleto because it leaves me with 5.5 million, right? So that could be like get back to double Haas, McLaren, Mercedes. Nothing really super wrong with this squad. I don't mind it at all, but it's 2 free transfers. I'm planning to use the limitless chip in Imola as long as everything goes according to plan, which maybe it won't do because this is F1 fantasy we're talking about here. So that would mean that I'd have a transfer to burn, or like a transfer would just be burned. And maybe this is not the optimal way to play, but it kind of would bug me to burn that transfer because I didn't use it in Saudi Arabia specifically to have it, but I missed out on the whole like Alonso versus Doohan or getting on Bortoleto early thing. So that kind of would like rub me the wrong way a little bit to not use all 3 free transfers. So my other option here is that I can bring in Bortoleto for Doohan. I can bring in Alonso, or I mean, I can show you guys, but I can bring in Lawson or Alonso, and then I can get Mercedes out of here and bring in the Ferrari team, which is pretty interesting because we just go over here to f1fantasytools.com. Fantastic website. If you use promo code UN50, you can get 50% off your first month. If you wait until Thursday, May 1st, you will get all of the next 4 races in your first month. So that'll be Miami, Imola, Monaco, and Spain. Yes, Spain. Just double checking. And I'll go over here. I have some weird selection filters here. As you see, Ferrari, outside of the first 2 races, the DSQ obviously, and then Charles and Lewis with the terrible strategy call there. 56 points in Japan ties Mercedes, 73 outscores them in Bahrain, and 64 outscores them in Saudi Arabia. So Ferrari is starting to kind of stretch their legs here, and they're well above Red Bull here as well. They outscored them in Australia, Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. So that's why Ferrari is entering my thoughts, and they are becoming a pretty big priority transfer. If we actually go back over here to the budget builder just to kind of look at it all in one pretty place, all the price rises I was talking about, as you can see here, Lawson, like he is better for a price rise this week, but like long term, it's going to get a little bit more difficult because he has that 11 falling off his 3-race rolling average. So you don't love that heading into a kind of low overtaking track in Imola, whereas Alonso, he'll have that 7 still clinging on there and stuff as well. So my biggest decision this week is probably just going to come down to Lawson versus Alonso and who looks good on Friday. So make sure you join me for the sprint quali watch along / final thoughts episode that I'll do on Friday night, late Friday night for us Europeans, but right bang in the middle of the afternoon for you Americans. So happy for y'all to get a non super early start race going on there. But Lawson versus Alonso will be my T1 dilemma here. We talked about it last week, but this T2 squad set up really nicely, probably going to limitless here for the Miami Grand Prix. And then this T3 squad will need some work because I've got Gasly and Alpine here, and that's probably going to result in me bringing in Haas plus a Liam Lawson or a Gabriel Bortoleto. I'm pretty confident most of these assets will rise. Russell, just double checking, 13 points for a 0.1 rise. 33 points is probably doable on a sprint weekend as well. So yeah, that'll be probably the 2 moves I have here as well for the T3 squad. But we'll get more into that kind of on the Q&A stream on Wednesday and the sprint quali watch along on Friday. But that'll do it for today's F1 Fantasy Transfer Targets episode. Like I said, there's going to be a live stream on Wednesday night, and there's going to be a live stream on Friday night. So hopefully you guys can join me there. Like the YouTube video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like I said, we are closing in on 2,900 subscribers. So if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, first of all, welcome. Thank you for watching. And second, hopefully you can subscribe because that would be greatly appreciated. So yeah, 2 more episodes, 2 more live streams this week. And yeah, make sure to check out the 2-part interview I did with Luke, and then head over to Rob's YouTube channel, Formula Fantasy Hub, to check out the interview I did with him. The first time I've ever been a guest on an F1 Fantasy YouTube channel, and it was a great time. We had a good old chit chat about F1 Fantasy. But hit me up on X, TikTok, Blue Sky, whatever, or just drop a comment in the video below if you have any F1 Fantasy questions over the next week as we get ready for the Miami Grand Prix. But hopefully you guys have a good week. Hopefully you have some questions to ask, and I will see you at the live stream. So once again, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.